Welcome back, everybody, to C# Tutorials for Beginners. This one is number 2, Syntax Basics. So what is syntax? The arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language. And that definition's pretty good, but for us, let's boil it down to the rules that we have to follow so that our compiler can build our application. Now, as we're jumping back into the code, there's going to be a lot of things that we go over that you're not going to know what they are yet. So don't worry about that because it will be covered in time. But for now, we're just going to worry about syntax. Now, there are a lot of syntax rules, but most of them you can find really quickly up front. And I just want to make sure that you're familiar with the very basics and how to fix it if you get it wrong. So let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit and click this box, change our text size to 200%. You can also use Control Scroll to zoom or zoom out. Now that we're zoomed in, the first thing I want to look at are called reserved keywords, and that's any of these words you see in this particular shade of blue. The only time you can use these reserved keywords is for the exact purpose that C# says you can. So for example, we're creating a class here. The class is called program. You can name a class pretty much anything you want to, as long as it's not a reserved word. So we could call this program 123 if we wanted, and it's perfectly happy. But if we try to call it class, you see it turns blue and errors pop up everywhere. Now, the minute it turned blue should be your, hey, I've done something wrong. Do not move on until you fix this because the errors that it shows you in your error window are kind of hard to track back to what's actually happening. The next thing I want to talk about are curly braces. Now you can see we have a tiny program, but we already have a lot of curly braces. Sometimes they can be hard to keep up with, but luckily Visual Studio is pretty good about telling you when you're missing one. So what do? So a curly brace is used to open and close a block of code. So you know when you see an opening brace, it's about to say, hey, whatever's coming belongs to whatever is above it. So you know that this belongs to the method main, and you know that all of this is in the class program, and you know that all of this is inside of the namespace beginner tutorial. Now we'll get to the finer details of how curly braces affect the code and how it runs soon enough, but what I want to show you is how it acts if you're missing one. So if you're writing code or copying and pasting code to see what it does, and you happen to miss a curly brace, Visual Studio is going to be very good about giving you a little squiggly that says, hey, closing curly brace expected. Now, if you click your error list down here, you can see it in your error list. If you click this code, it will bring up a website that will give you the compiler error and some more details. Most of the time, this window will be enough to let you know what's happening. But basically what this is saying is it's giving you this squiggle right here because this is where the error occurred. So it said, okay, we have a namespace, we have a class, we have our main method, we found the end of it, but then we came and we looked, and this right here was the end of class. And then we tried to find the end of namespace, and it didn't exist. So it's telling us we need one right here, when really this is the one missing, but if we put one here, auto formatting will do its job and put our brace back for us. And now everybody is happy. Another thing I want to talk about is case sensitivity. C# is case sensitive. So if we changed our console that we have used before to a lowercase c, all of a sudden it does not exist anymore. Similar to that, you could create two variables, say num equals 1 and num equals 2, and those are two completely separate variables. So not only do you need to watch for case, it's also a good practice to name your variables well so you don't end up running into problems like these. The last thing I want to talk about is white space. Even though C# has very strict rules about its curly braces, its semicolons, and its case sensitivity, it does not care about white space. So you could put this here, and you could put this way over here, and etc., etc., and put this all the way down here, and it's going to build, it's going to run just fine. So it's really up to the developer to use a good coding standard to manage how the code is formatted. Because once you get more than a few lines of code, if it's not formatted well, it's going to be impossible to read. That pretty much wraps it up for the basics of syntax. Now we will come across plenty more syntax rules as we go along, but we will cross that bridge when we get there. Next up, we will be talking about comments and regions so we can document and better organize our code. So thanks for watching, everybody. I do appreciate you. Good luck out there. And as always, until next time, take care.